Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the good, the bad, and the odd online dating podcast. I'm your host, Craig Palmer, author of the good, the bad, and the odd online dating book. I'm also a certified domestic violence counselor. And let me introduce my co-host, Raina Duhart. She has 25 years in real estate and in 25 years in real estate and investing experience. And don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe and share with your friends the show. And the book will be available in about 2 weeks. So I'm waiting from the book from the publisher. I think you guys will really, really like it. So anyway, tonight we're going to talk a little bit about, and this is actually in the book too, and it's actually in chapter 4, the language of online dating, because the language of online dating is actually what prompted me to actually write a book about online dating. Because what I found was that when I first went online and decided to start online dating, there were so many terms that I didn't recognize, and and English has always been my best subject. So I was wondering, like, well, what did sapiosexual mean, right? And sapiosexual meant a person that has um, that's sexually attracted to an intelligent person, right? And so I was like, okay. Then when I saw the term polyamorous, I was like, well, what's polyamorous? And that's um, relationships with three or more people. So you see, and in fact, there's a TV show on television where they specifically talk about polyamorous relationships, right? And so these are some of the terms that you see online, right? And you see like a lot of abbreviations, a lot of acronyms and stuff like that. Like one abbreviation that drives me nuts is the abbreviation when a woman says WYD, what you doing? What am I doing? What am I doing?
You want somebody to just write it out?
I prefer you. You would never. If I send you an abbreviation, it'd be a miracle because I spelled everything out. I'm serious, and I don't know. Maybe it's just me being old school. Maybe it's just me being a writer. But those abbreviations, like my daughter, she'll say to me, we're talking on the phone, and she'll say, "All right, TTLY." I'm like,
TTYL.
TTYL, whatever. And I'm like,
I feel
what?
like you're aging yourself a little bit right there.
And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, I'll talk to you later. And I'm like, okay, got you. So what are some of the terms that drive you nuts?
The HBU. How about you?
How about you? Okay. Oh, thankfully, I don't think too many people HBU. Oh.
I get a
I
lot of HBUs. The WYD doesn't bother me too much.
mm,
I see a lot of the GMs, like good morning, GN
oh
for
well,
good night.
yeah. I mean, sometimes if you're long, it's been a long day, you're tired, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I could see where someone might just say, GM. That
I don't
I
want a lazy good morning text. Don't send me a lazy good morning text.
just you know what? Yeah, I mean, but how about no text at all? So I mean, a lazy
Now,
text.
if you don't text at all, well, that could kind of go one of two ways, though. But I feel like we get off topic. But I feel like that could go one of two ways if you don't get a good morning text. Because for some guys, they like to keep the conversation going, so they don't do a good night or a good morning. But then some people, they like to check in all the time, so they like to have at least that good morning, that good night text. So I
Hmm.
feel like that could go either ways. If you don't text first thing in the morning.
Hmm. You know what? It's just nice to say good morning, and whether you're in a relationship with someone, or whether it's just friendship, or someone you grew up with, or someone you're cool with, a good morning. doesn't cost you anything. It's like I used to say, tell my staff, they was like, "Oh, why are you so happy in the morning?" And it's not that I'm very happy in the morning. Why? Because I said good morning. It didn't cost me anything. Like, what's the matter with saying good morning?
I
So
don't have a problem. So, and this could just be me, and I might get a lot of flack from this, but I do not like Grand Rising Queen. I feel like it's in some instances it's so pretentious. Like, I mean, I understand the whole backdrop of where Good Morning comes from, but I feel like in our culture and right now, that's not what we're using it for. So I feel like it's appropriate to say Good Morning, but the Grand Rising Queen kind of gets me in my feelings a little bit. I'm like, oh. It's like, are you a real king or are you a fake king? Are you just woke for the moment? Like, what is, are we using terms that we're, starting to hear on TikTok? Like, I kind of feel some type of way about the Grand Rising Queen.
right, and I'll admit, there's a friend of mine that she texts me every so often, Grand Rising. She just says Grand Rising, and I'm like, I don't mind it too much because she's the only one that does it. To be
Okay.
honest with you, but I've heard it said from other folks, like I've been tech, and I don't particularly care for it either. I mean, I must admit, I prefer just say good morning,
Right.
than Grand
Just say good
Rising.
morning.
Yeah,
And honestly, in my everyday language, I'm not calling you king. I'm just,
right.
I'm not going to do that.
Got you.
So,
Now,
to
and you know
say
what?
grand rising, I'm like, if you're gonna say good morning, like say it in a way that's gonna speak to me and not in a way that's like it's a socially acceptable term for the moment.
Right. Yeah, and it's so funny because I don't think I've really used queen to describe someone. I can't recall using the word queen, like Grand Rising Queen, or hey Queen. Like, very, I can't recall. If I have used it, I don't remember.
Yeah.
So, but I did look at my book and some of the terms that were on there. So let me ask you. I'll ask you because you might. Let's see if you know some of these terms. Do you know what Riz means? RIZZ. Riz.
Unfortunately, I do. I've got teenagers, so I know what Riz means.
What
I
does it
know what
mean?
Riz means, and it's often said in the same sentence as cap. So I've had to learn what that meant as well.
Right. See,
Like you got
exactly.
that Riz, no cap, and I'm like, what?
Exactly. And that and the term it says here, it means flirting, right?
Uh
And
huh.
so
Like
when you
charisma.
right, and so this is some of the things that I'm talking about when you go online. Some of these
Uh-huh.
terms, abbreviations, or what have you. For an older person or more mature person, you don't. I mean, you don't know what the hell the person's saying, and you have sometimes, older women who have younger kids that know these terms and may use these terms. And if they say these terms to you, you don't know what the person is saying. You're like, what? You seem like a fool. So, and then, you have terms like LTR, which is, long term relationship. You see
Okay.
some of these abbreviations
Yep.
in a lot of websites that limit the amount of characters that you can use on this site. So they'll use, instead of saying they're looking for a long term relationship, they'll say, I'm looking for LTR
Yep.
because, it just saves characters in space. Or ONS, I'm looking for ONS. You know what ONS is?
A one night stand.
That's what it is.
I did
One
learn
night
that
stand.
one.
And then a DTF, I guess people know what that is.
I don't.
Down to fuck.
Oh. What happened to just like the regular FWBs? Like, can we just stick to
Mm.
those?
Right. That was the next one. FWB, friends with benefits.
I know what that means.
Yeah. And then, of course, you have new terms that have come out, like ghosting. And I think we kind of mentioned ghosting before, which is I always kind of thought ghosting is, um, you know, never talking to the person again, but not intentionally. Like, if I spoke to a woman online, and let's just say I wasn't interested and I never called her, I don't call that ghosting.
Uh-huh.
Now, because my number hasn't changed. To me, ghosting is, you talk to someone and you call them and their numbers change. To me, you no longer have contact with them. And so to me, that's ghosting. But I
Hmm.
guess ghosting is just dropping the communication entirely.
So I actually have a really funny story about that happened to me just today.
Uh-oh.
So, so I met this guy. Let's say I met him on Hinge. I think it was Hinge.
Hmm.
And we were chatting a little bit. And then, we had a couple of FaceTime calls and it was good. So we made a date to meet each other in person.
Hmm.
Well, 3 hours before that time, something came up with one of my kids at school. So I had to reschedule. And within 3 hours' time of the time we were supposed to meet each other. So I reached out to him. I let him know that, hey, can we reschedule? Something came up with my kid. And he's like, this short of notice? And so I was kind of in my feelings a little bit about it. So I kind of let it go. I was like, well, I let you know as soon as I was able to let you know. And then nothing back. Like all of a sudden, it looked like, he didn't respond to my texts or anything. So I'm like, okay, he ghosted me. Fine. That was a win for me. So why do I get a text message from this guy last night? And it's like, hey, boo, checking up on you. Who is this? And I'm like, and he's like, so and so. He's like, we met online. I think this is the right person. I'm like, let's exchange pictures. And it was the same guy who ghosted me. So I'm like, so I texted him back and I said,
Hmm.
you ghosted me. Now you're blocked. It was like, who does that? So I think like in researching, I think that's called, what is it? It's submarining, where you like
Hmm.
ghost somebody for a little bit and then you come back afterwards. And
No, they
I'm
call
like,
it.
no, you're blocked now. And I've never had to block anybody before, but now I'm like, seriously, dude, like you ghosted me because you didn't like the amount of time I gave you to reschedule, and then you're just gonna pop back up in my messages. Like, no. So I felt like that was an appropriate time for me to now block him.
Hmm.
Because now you've got problems.
Right. I get it. One of the terms they have out there is called breadcrumbing, and it means
Yes.
giving false hope.
You had to teach me what that one was because I had no clue what that was.
Yeah, it's and I hear women oftentimes say that, is are people's intentions genuine, right? And I guess breadcrumbing is one of those terms that kind of relates to whether the person's intentions are genuine. Because I see a lot of women online, they say dating with a purpose, right? And I totally get that. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to make certain that the person is on the same page with you, right? Then you should tell them, listen, I'm dating with a purpose. And you're hoping that, you vibe with the person and that, you have the chemistry and all the things necessary in place because ultimately you want to get married. You don't, because time is valuable, and so if I know I don't want to waste time with someone, you know what I mean? Because listen, the reality is we have more time behind us than ahead of us. So because of that reason, you want to kind of make certain that your time is utilized effectively.
I definitely agree. But let me ask you a question. Who do you feel breadcrumbs more, men or women?
I think men, clearly men do, and that's because I think men sometimes think that the grass is greener on the other side, right? And not only that, but I think men want to keep their options open, right? Like you don't know who honestly sometimes is the best match for you. So you're going to kind of breadcrumb maybe two or three people. And what you're hoping is that one of them kind of takes the lead, right? It's almost kind of like a horse race. You know what I mean? Like, you're in a horse race, you got three horses, they're all galloping, right? And eventually one of them kind of takes the lead and they move ahead. And that's the one you take. You're like, okay, this is the one that separated herself. I don't know if women necessarily do that, but I know for guys sometimes we do because, you know, if it's a race and they're all even, well, one of them has to separate themselves, and maybe one of them hasn't separated themselves. And so sometimes you got to listen to what's being said, right? Because, I listen to, if you call a woman, right, and she doesn't say, let's just say you're talking to someone online, eventually you exchange numbers, right? If she's not talking about, hey, when are we going to meet? Or I'm looking forward to meeting you or something like that, that's a problem, right? Because how long are you supposed to how long are you supposed to engage in conversation with the person, right? I don't believe that you should spend a lot of time engaging the person without meeting them first, right? Because time is valuable, and how you
Yeah.
respond to a person face to face is going to be different than how you respond to them online,
Oh
or on
yeah,
the phone.
absolutely.
So why dedicate so much time to getting to know them? Getting to know their likes, dislikes, wants, their whole family history, all of this kind of stuff. And then you find that you meet the person and it's like, we're not a match. Now I know your whole life story.
Uh-huh.
So I'd much rather meet the person relatively early. Let's establish that we have some chemistry, a rapport, and then take it from there, right? And then listen, things come
Yeah.
up. Let's keep it real. There are things that kind of come up, throughout the relationship, and then you find out, this is a deal breaker for you. Maybe
Mhm.
the guy is controlling, right? Maybe he wasn't controlling early on in the relationship, but as the relationship starts to progress, you're noticing certain tendencies and stuff like that, and you're like, no, this is
Yeah.
not a match. But in the
Mhm.
beginning, at least you knew you had some sort of chemistry.
Mhm. Oh yeah, I'm a big proponent and I need to feel your energy. I'm a big proponent on pheromones. I want to
Hmm.
see how we interact when we're with one another. I'm a huge empath, so I want to feel how I feel when I'm with you. Do I feel secure? Do I feel like I'm on edge?
Right.
So all of those things are really important to me. So I absolutely prefer to meet the person in person, like very early on. And I know some guys they feel like, oh, you just want a free dinner or a free meal or whatever out of me, and I'm like, I'll pay. Like, that's not the point. The point is, I feel like I'm not gonna just waste my time talking to you on the phone or texting you if
Hmm.
there's not gonna be a match, or
Right.
if I feel like you're a jerk in person.
Right, exactly. And you can see sometimes certain tendencies, how people treat other people. Like you can go to a
Oh,
restaurant.
absolutely.
Like one time I was on a date and this woman was so mean to the waitress, right? And I was like, whoa. And listen, if the food takes a while, in all likelihood, it's probably not the waitress' problem. It's probably really the cook's problem, right?
Right.
And so she was just so mean to the waitress, and I'm like, well, why are you acting like that? You know what I mean? It's not like her fault. And the waitress was pretty cool. She was, coming back and forth, letting us know, hey, listen, they had a little issue in the kitchen. It's taking a little while longer, and the woman just really was going off. So
Yeah, I would absolutely feel some type of way about that. But I do like to see sometimes like how a guy interacts when we're out to eat.
I mean, I remember one time I was talking to she said she was dating a guy, and the guy said he wasn't interested in her, and she said, "Why?" Because she's like, "I think we're mature." She said, "I don't like the way you chew."
What?
And what's so funny is she did chew with her mouth open because we were out to dinner, and it didn't bother me none, but I could see how it might bother someone.
So that would that wouldn't bother you at all.
No, you know what I mean? When I saw her chewing with her mouth open, I just found it really funny. Because listen, there are some people
Uh huh.
catfishing. So how do you feel about catfishing then? Because I mean, there's some they have a TV show on Good or Bad, and you become shocked that people are catfishing. To be honest with you, because with the technology, with video chatting now available, how do you get catfished? I mean, I would think it's almost an impossibility because you should the first thing you should ask is the video chat with the person, hey, I want to see what you look like, and that can save you.
Yeah, I definitely agree that at some point there needs to be some type of video chat. I mean, it's easier if you have like the same type of device, like especially, I have an Apple device, so it's very easy to FaceTime with somebody. But I've had guys that have like, used WhatsApp or some other kind of app to be able to do, Google Meet. Even I had a guy schedule us a date on Google Meet so that we could see each other, face to face first before we actually met in person, and still ended up being a dud. But
Can you hear me now?
it's still like really faint. But I thought I was the only one. But is somebody else saying that they can't hear you? Yeah, I even tried putting my headphones on, and I still couldn't hear you. Like I'm like sitting all the way up on my speaker so I can hear you. You're frozen. Looks like we're having some technical difficulties. And he's back.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. Hallelujah. Yes. Absolutely. Okay. Now we're cooking the gas.
Okay. All right. All right. Miss Brown, can you hear me now? Okay. So I'm gonna go on the assumption that she can hear me now as well. All right. But anyway, the so back to catfish.
Oh,
so
yeah.
so
Yes.
I'm not really certain why catfishing happens, right? I would, like I said, I think that you should be able to suggest to someone that you want to video chat. And if they have no interest in video chatting, quite honestly, um, I would probably have to not consider that person serious, right? And I might also consider them to be possibly trying to scam me, right?
Right.
Because why would you not? And I get it. Some people's like, well, I'm just not really big on video chatting. Well, why not? I don't get it.
Okay. Well, wait. The converse side of that is there was this one guy that I was talking to, and he would just randomly FaceTime me at all different times of the day. And I'm like, I finally answered his FaceTime. We hadn't scheduled this or anything. He would just randomly FaceTime me instead of calling me. And he's like, well, I just wanted to make sure you were real.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, so you just want to catch me off guard? Like, I was a little uncomfortable about that as well. I feel like if you want to FaceTime with somebody, because some people would like to at least be freshened up, and not just like caught rolling out the bed or something. Especially if you have different like time schedules and you don't know that yet. I feel like that should be something that is scheduled to do a FaceTime, with someone. But I can see that there's still some catfishing to take place, because I'm gonna tell you about this one guy that I FaceTimed, and he was gorgeous. I met him in person, and he was like lied about his height. I was like, you can't tell height when you're FaceTiming somebody. I was really disappointed in that, because I invested some time in this dude, and I'm like, no, 8 is not 5'11", is not giving 5'11" right now. I needed to take my flats off just to be eye to eye with him. But then, and then for some women, they might wear, a lot of makeup or have the filters or whatever on. So I can see how catfishing can still take place today. I can definitely see it.
Because it reminds me of that story with the guy who was playing, I think from Michigan, Mateo, I think his name was, right? You heard about that story? This guy, he met this girl online, and he's falling in love with her online and all this kind of stuff, and come to find out it's a guy, right? You don't remember that?
No.
No. His name was Mateo, if I'm not mistaken.
No.
And he
fully transgender, because some fully transgender persons consider themselves to be officially what it is that they've transitioned into.
It was a guy, and it wasn't a transgender issue. It was, I'm trying to remember, because they actually made it like a TV movie, and it was the craziest thing. Like, I'm like, because he's talking about, he's professing his love for her, and the friends on his team are like, when are we gonna meet her and all this other kind of stuff. And then come to find out, like I said, it was a guy, kind of, I'm trying to remember what exactly the specifics were. But anyway, the point is, technology is such a thing. Listen, I need to see you. And if you ain't allowing me to see you, sorry.
I'm just imagining you, full 6'4" stature, and somebody like walks up to you and you see it's an actual guy. Like, what's your facial expression? Like, how would you have responded if, when you met this person in person, that they were male?
Well, that would never happen to me. but it's kind of like they would listen.
Could have somebody else with the FaceTime. I don't know. It could happen.
Because that happened in real life. It was on what's his name? What's that guy? Jerry Springer. Right?
Yes.
Where the guy was talking to this other guy online. He thought it was a woman, and when the guy came on the show, he was like, it was really a guy, and the guy went off on him.
Listen, not to digress a little bit, not to digress off subject, but that happened to me once back when I was recruiting in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. I was telecommuting, so all of our interviews were over the phone. So I sent this guy over to, I believe it was Robert Wood Johnson Foundation or something. I forget where I sent him to. Mm-hmm. Sounds like a man on the phone. Never met her in person because the interviews were over the phone. This is maybe like 15 years ago. Right. He shows in full drag to the interview. And my hiring managers are calling me like, I thought we were interviewing a man. And I'm sitting there like, you gotta interview him or this is a lawsuit. Like, you have to. You can't tell him who to identify as, but that has like literally happened to me from a recruiting experience. So I can't even imagine that would have happened to me in a dating experience.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I used to do training, um, right before the training, we used to have to do like a roll call, right?
Right.
And so I'm, you know, calling out everybody's name, and I'm like, Christopher, Smith, Christopher Smith, right? And so what happens is at the end of the workshop, you have to submit the names of the people that didn't show up because they could potentially lose their benefits, right? Because they're required to come to the workshops. And so at the end of the workshop, the guy comes up to me and he's like, I prefer to be called Christina. And I'm like, okay, like, gotcha.
All the way to the end. See, I can't. I cannot with that. I cannot with that.
And then the thing about it was, so when I did my report, right, because the guy was dressed crazy, kind of like with long nails and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, so when in my report, because what I'm supposed to do is give a report on their job readiness. So I said, the guy is flamboyant and he's going to find difficulty finding a job. So my boss, who happens to be gay, she's like, what do you mean flamboyant? I said, well, take a look at him. He's dressed crazy as all hell, right? I can just tell you, and this is keeping it real, if he came, and I've been a store manager several times, if you came on an interview dressed in drag or something like that, I am not hiring you. I'm sorry. And I don't have to tell the person, like you said, it could be a lawsuit because, but the reality is that their customers, I think you're going to lose, like I'll give you an example, at McDonald's, right? The McDonald's that's right across the street from my son's school, right? There's a cross-dresser or transgender guy there, he's kind of, you can clearly see he's a guy, right? And, I don't want to see that in the morning. And quite honestly, and no disrespect to him, live your life. I just don't want to see that, right? But listen, he's got to work like everybody else. He earns a paycheck, so you know what? I go there, no problem. I get my meal, but I don't like to see a guy dressed as a woman, But once again, you have to live your life,
Yeah, I get it. But I wanted to go back to something you said about the breadcrumbing and why you feel like men do it more than women do. I feel like it's not just because of the fact that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't feel like it's just because of the fact that men like to keep their options open, because I feel like women like to keep our options open as well. We just do it a little differently. Like we had that conversation about the buckets women like to put men in, like either you're just a friend, we friend zone you, or you're, the potential of X, Y, and Z. But I feel like men know that women are going to say, oh, but men aren't as attentive as we are. So if you give us just a little bit, then we're going to continue to kind of hang on. If you text us like maybe once a week, then we're like, oh, well, he's still thinking about me. So I feel like that's why it's easier for a woman to kind of get pulled into the breadcrumbing thing, and we may not realize if we're being breadcrumbs. But I think for women, we're just naturally more attentive. So I don't think we breadcrumb. I think we definitely ghost and Casper a lot more. I just learned that term today too, Caspering. I think we do more ghosting and Caspering than men do, because I think we're a little bit more nicer.
You know what? I think women are, yeah, you're right. Women are nicer, but the funny thing about it is women will be more direct, right? Like women will tell you if they're not interested.
I don't think so.
Yeah, women. Listen, I can just tell you that the vast, at least most of the women that I've spoken to, if they're not interested, they're not pulling no punches.
You pulling them bosses. It's funny because so many people refer to me as an alpha female, but I don't like hurting people's feelings. And my daughter's always like, Mom, there's a block button for a reason. Block them. And I'm like, I don't like to block people. I don't like to hurt their feelings. And I just kind like, ignore them until they go away. I'm not mean like that. Like, there was this one guy, I thought he was gorgeous, and we talked forever. I met him in person, and his breath smelled so bad. And I'm like, okay, maybe he just had a bad day at work. But every time I met him, his breath stunk. Even after alcohol, his breath stunk. I'm like, I don't know how to tell this man that I don't want to talk to him because his breath stinks. So I just casually ignored him for a little while, just responded a little bit less. But he still hasn't gone away, and it's been like 3 months. So I feel like, we're nicer. We're not going to just be like, oh, your breath stinks, so I don't want to be. What is that face? You look so intrigued.
Why not just buy him like a stick of gum or something? You know what I mean? Or you mean his breath is sticking through the gum, through the mint?
You had a drink at dinner and your breath still stinks. That's a halitosis problem. You need a breath mint.
That's a dentist. You know what I mean? Like maybe he has a rotten tooth or something.
Something's going on. So yes, I have definitely ghosted some people because of that. But how would you let somebody down like that if it was just like something small?
Well, it honestly, what I would make up something else. I'm not going to tell a person is their breath.
A liar, Craig.
No, that's just being tactful. Right?
No, tact is saying the truth, but in a way that's going to be well received. Lying to someone is lying to someone.
Because let me tell you, when I do career development workshops, right?
Okay.
I tell my clients, my job is to tell you if your breath stinks, because I'm doing you a disservice. Because if I send you out on a job opportunity and you don't get the job, it was my fault because the person didn't hire you because your breath stank. So if your breath stink, I'm going to tell you, and don't be offended by it. Now that's a little different than a potential
correlation.
mate that
No.
your breath stink. You know what I mean? Like, how do you tell someone that? You know what I mean? Like,
when I've done job interviews, like in person, I've absolutely had to tell somebody, okay, before you go before the hiring manager, you need to go freshen up a bit. Or I've even like bought a woman safety pins, right before she went before a hiring manager. But we're talking about dating, and that was something else you said before too. I feel like you look at dating like a sport.
Like a sport? How do you figure?
Because you were like, well, when you consider a horse race and, you're looking for somebody to kind of pull ahead. Is that how you look at women? Like, oh, I'll talk to 2 or 3 of them and then I'm waiting to see if one of them is going to kind of pull ahead of the other one. It's like a sport.
I don't like to use the term.
That's exactly how you described it.
But you really want someone to distinguish themselves, right?
Okay.
Because, when you're talking to a couple of people, right, think about it. You ultimately want the person that's going to be best suited for you, right?
Right.
And if neither one of them is really kind of separating themselves, then you've got to, obviously that comes with spending time with them. And eventually, matter of fact, I'll use a real example, right? Many years ago, when I was dating these 2 women, they were both in the same, kind of like the same, both attractive, intelligent, stuff like that, right? And I was trying to decide, who was going to be my girlfriend, right? And ultimately, what the deciding factor was the fact that one of them wanted children and the other one didn't, right? So eventually something comes up that allows you to be able to decide who's the better fit for you, right? Now, in hindsight, had I picked the other person, we had probably a better rapport than the one I selected, but she didn't want to have no children. So that was a factor that I had to consider, So, yeah, I don't want to use horse race because obviously women and horses, but it's just like
analogy.
Like eventually, you're going to get to know one a little bit better, and there's always going to be one of them that, you know, does something that separates. A matter of fact, I'll use my wife as an example. When I was dating her, I was dating this other woman too. And, my wife did something really, thankless, and, something that, just kind of blew my mind. And it was so nice of her. It allowed me to realize she was the one better suited for me than the other woman. Because ultimately you want someone who's in your corner, right? You want someone
Yeah.
who's going to make you a better man, right? And
Right.
so sometimes, you need to be shown that, right? You can't be
Mhm.
told it. It has to be shown to you. And the way
Right.
it's shown to you is by a woman who's willing to do certain things that are
Hmm.
thankless. You know what I mean? Like I'll
Yeah.
give you an example. One time I was talking to this woman, right? And so she calls me up one day and she's like, "Hey, what are you up to?" And I said, nothing. I was working from home doing something." And she says, "I want to send you a letter. What's your address?" Right? And so I gave her my address, no big deal. And then 2 hours later, I get a knock at the door, right? And so I go to the door, and it's DoorDash. She sent 3 pizzas, a couple of orders of wings for me and the boys. And I'm like, where is this from? And, it had her name. And I was like, so I called her, I was like, oh my God, thank you. She was like, yeah, I knew you was home, and I know you're home with the boys. And I just wanted to, do something nice. And I was blown away. I was
Yeah.
like, that was so nice,
Hmm.
and that's something I would do. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? Like, if you're hard at work and I know you haven't had an opportunity to get something to eat, I would do that. And so that really, made me realize that she could be potentially a good partner.
Yeah.
The only problem why I didn't end up with her was because she wanted kids, right?
Mm.
And I had to tell her like, yo, I don't want no kids. I'm done, right? And she tried to convince me like, please, I want you to be the father of my children and this and that. And I was like, no, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I can't do that. My son's getting. I'm counting the days right now when they move out. Like I'm putting X's on the calendar right now.
I cannot. But you know what? That's actually a really good smooth dating move, especially for right now. And if you're dating like a career woman or someone who has children, and you send them a meal, do you know how far that goes? Especially if you're constantly trying to contact them and they're busy. How about you buy the time to spend with them? Send a meal to their house so that they don't have to prepare dinner for their kids at night. They can have dinner, and then they got time to talk to you. And a lot of people don't think that way, But I love that. I felt like that was an amazing move. But something else that you said that I thought was really interesting, that I feel like is really particular to our climate right now, is you said you were dating two women at the same time.
Hmm.
20 years ago, when I was dating my husband, you weren't dating more than one person at a time. You dated one person, and then if that didn't work out, or otherwise you'd be looked at a little bit like, oh, she's a slut, she's a hoe, she's, out there. But I feel like right now, with this type of dating community, you have to talk to more than one person at a time. But I'm finding some guys are kind of feeling some type of way about that. They're like, well, if we've met and we are cool with each other, you should stop talking to everybody else, or you should shut down your online dating accounts. And I'm like, for what? What are your
You know
thoughts
what?
on that?
That's actually an interesting comment, to be very honest with you, because when you start talking to someone, right, they kind of automatic, because I think women do this, sometimes. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if they meet someone that they're interested in, they kind of focus in on that person exclusively. It seems like, and
That gives
you
aggressive
know,
traits. Right?
and
No.
they'll get offended if they see that you still have a profile up, and they're like, "Well, why is your profile still up?" And you're like, "Well, I mean, the reality is, I don't want to say to the person, well, you haven't distinguished yourself. Like, how do I know you're the one? What
Right.
have you done that says to me, like, yo, this is the person that I want to be with the rest of
Yeah.
my life?" Because quite honestly, my my feeling is the next woman that I settle down with is probably going to be the person that I'm going to end up potentially marrying or being with, because
Right.
uh, I do want that one woman, but I'm also not going to settle, and so I
Exactly.
have to see certain things, right,
Hmm.
that say to me, like, this is the person that's going to be by my side. Like, there's no doubt. Like, I really want someone that's going to be like, my Bonnie and Clyde. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't like to use the word ride or die per se, but if I ever get in a pinch and I pick up the phone and say, babe, I need you, she's like, I'm on my way. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Absolutely.
You don't get that feeling sometimes with some women. And so
No.
that's why sometimes you have to wait to see if a woman separates herself. Because don't get me wrong, there's a lot of nice women out there, but are there a lot of women that are ride or dies? I
Yeah.
don't know about that. I don't know if there's a lot of ride or dies out there.
Too, are there some men that are willing to take off of work for you and spend the day with you and help you with whatever you have going on, or help you get your kids off to school one day, or like, to me, that's a ride or die. If you can sacrifice a vacation day or a PTO day or a sick day and come and help me out with my kids, like, that's a ride or die. And
Right.
I don't see a lot of men volunteering to take off of work to come and spend the day with me. If so, you come up to St. Augustine. Like, I got more than enough. They get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. You come help put them on the bus. But I feel like women are more apt to do that too. But it comes back to another like term that I've been seeing a lot too, and it's DTR, defining the relationship. I've gotten that so much more from men.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've gotten this from women, but very, very quickly, I've gotten men wanting to define the relationship, wanting to be exclusive, not wanting to be in a situationship, and
Really?
I'm oh my goodness, like in less than a 2 weeks, they're like, okay, I want to be exclusive.
I'm gonna quote. I'm gonna quote. What's his name? The guy from the Breakfast Club. What's the guy's
Okay.
name?
I don't know. It's been so
Something
long.
something to God. What's his name? Um,
You're going to make me Google it.
the guy's name from the Breakfast
Melanie?
Club? Something to God. I can't think of his name right now. Um, he's from South Carolina, I think. The dark skinned dude that's on that radio show. I'm trying to think of his name right now. Uh,
Charlemagne the God. Is that
Charlemagne,
his?
thank you. Charlemagne
Oh.
the God, they call him, right? And his quote to you would be saying, "Man, you got some good pum pum if you're doing
or like, you got that good day.
it." Because really, I mean, I can just tell you, I've dated, women in the past, and they're quick to be like, literally 30 days in, literally to the day. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? We're dating. You know what I mean? Like, I've known you for 30 days. What do you mean? What are we doing here?
But is that what you
So,
call it? Is it called dating, or is it called a situationship, or is it called talking, or how would you define that time period before you are exclusive with that one person?
I call it dating. You know,
I want to say it. I'm not
in
saying
the
it.
old days, where I'm from, Harlem, we used to call it talking. We talking.
And that's what I'm saying.
You
I'm
know,
talking. Got a couple of friends that I'm talking
yeah,
to.
you know what I mean. You got a couple of people talking, and it's just like, it's funny because in the old days, I don't think people were so anxious to find out, like, what are we doing here. But I get it. When you get a little older, time is valuable. So you want to kind of know, I guess, a little early on, like, yo, what are we doing here? Like, I get it, but not after 30 days.
I don't think it's age. I think it's the fact that we've got all these dating sites at our fingertip that we can quickly be like, oh, they got on my nerves today. Let me go and see what else is out there.
Hmm.
I think it's age. I think it's opportunity. I think it's the choices. We have so many more choices at our fingertips now that we're not willing to put in the work to really make a relationship grow. That's how I feel.
I mean, I think, well, the way to me you put in the work is once the person, once again, has distinguished themselves, right? Because if you haven't distinguished yourself, why am I putting all this work and I haven't determined you're the one that I should be putting the work in? You know what I mean? So and it could be, just um, what's a great like maybe the person is kind of rigid at first, right? And you're like, you want someone that's not as rigid. So that might knock them out,
Yeah,
even though that person might have a good heart, even though that person might be a good catch, quote unquote, but maybe they're a little too rigid. Sometimes you have to recognize if someone is a good match. You know what I mean? Realistically, you want someone whose personality is similar to yours. You know,
absolutely.
I think that's, a key thing. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Because if you get someone whose personality is like yours, I think that can take you a long way. I really
Hmm.
do. But if the person's personality isn't like yours, like for instance, there's this woman that I know, really, 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 really sweet woman, very, very sweet woman, like heart of gold. But she's an introvert, right?
Hmm.
And so she probably wouldn't be an ideal um, partner for me because I don't want someone who's an introvert. Because I like to talk. You know what I mean? I don't want her to feel uncomfortable around family and friends because my family is very outgoing. You come to a family barbecue, they're gonna be like, "Hey, what's going on right now? How you doing? Hey, let me get you some rum punch." They're gonna be, "Hey, what do you do? How many kids you got?" Like they're gonna be engaging in conversation. If you're one of those folks that are an introvert, you're gonna be uncomfortable because they're gonna approach you, they're gonna be talking to you, and all that kind of stuff. So I would prefer to get someone that's more of an extrovert. Someone that we can talk, we can laugh, we're going to be engaged in conversation, who's going to be comfortable in every situation, And so you've got to recognize that. You've got to know when a personality is not fully aligned with yours, or what people say, equally yoked. I can't hear you. There you go. You're getting ready to come back. I think we lost you for a second. Something's wrong with your volume. But so it's important to, and in my book, I have a lot of different terms, a lot of abbreviations that I had to research and get to learn because, listen, um, language is constantly evolving.
Hmm.
Words are constantly evolving. So, as adults, we got to know what people are saying and be able to communicate effectively. So,
Agreed.
yeah,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, I was saying it sounds like you're looking for your twin flame.
You know what? I think that you want, for me, and it's really simple. I want someone who views things similar to I do, which is I want to put, wake up next to my partner, I want to put a smile on her face, right? And so I'm going to try to do whatever it takes to put a smile on her face. And if this is long term, while we're together, for however long we're together, if it's just making her breakfast, if it's, you know, um, taking a walk, hey babe, wake up, and it's 5 o'clock in the morning, and get dressed, and you go to the beach, and you watch the sunset. You know what I mean? Like you do things to keep it fresh. You know what I mean? You do things to keep it interesting, right?
Hmm.
But you got to get someone who's equally yoked. Because I can tell you, there was someone I was talking to, and she ain't getting up early in the morning, right? If you try to wake up at 5 a.m., I'm telling you, she probably slapped the hell out of you, right? Because
That
she
is
loves to
true.
sleep. And so I knew that would not be a good match for me because I like to get up early in the morning. Like I like to, come on, let's get up. We're going to Orlando today. What? We're going to Orlando. Come on, we get on the road. We're going to go to Orlando. I like to be spontaneous. There's some folks that you can't be spontaneous with because
Right.
they don't like everything has to be regimented, everything has to be planned. That's not what life is about. Life is about enjoying it. And so
Hmm.
some things can't be planned. Sometimes you got to go with the flow.
Right. But you can't always just discount a person because they're not a morning person that they wouldn't do that. Like I'm not a morning person because I'm nocturnal. I'm up all night, but I have definitely done a lot of dates where I've gotten up at 5 in the morning and watched the sunrise or watched the dolphins, off the pier in Jacksonville. But I mean, if it's somebody you care about, you're going to do that with them. You're going to indulge in their interests as well. I prefer sunsets over sunrises, but I would still do it. So I don't
I
think that
mean,
you can just discount a
it
person.
can't be just like I'll give you an example. Not only will they not wake up early, but they also go into bed early. So, like I know I don't go to bed early all the time. If I have a partner who's in bed at 9 o'clock every night, she's probably really not going to be a good fit. Because I'm gonna
Yeah,
be like,
that's definitely true.
there are going to be times that I'm going to be like, come on, babe, let's go watch a movie. It might be 11 o'clock at night, and
Hmm.
we're cuddled up on the couch watching a movie, eating popcorn, and just talking. And it's 11 o'clock at night. If you're one of those folks that have to go to bed every day at 9 o'clock and you need your 8 hours sleep every night, you're not going to be a good match because I can just assure you, I'm going to be waking you up sometimes at 3 o'clock in the morning.
You're
So,
definitely looking for a twin flame. Love that though. Because some people are looking for their twin flame, some people are looking for their soulmate, and it sounds like you're looking for your twin flame.
yeah, I just want someone who's similar to myself, who's willing to be daring, who's gonna be giving, who's willing to, sacrifice herself for the greater good sometimes. Because that's what, that's how I feel I am. I will sacrifice myself to make someone else happy. And that's what, making your partner happy is sometimes is sacrificing, you know. So
Yeah. Well, I don't even look at it as sacrificing if it's the person you love and care about.
yeah,
It's
but
just what you do.
how does it manifest itself? Because there comes a point, right? And I don't know if we should discuss this on next week's show, but how long do you invest in someone before you have to decide this is not moving forward, right? Because how long are you going to talk to
That's an
someone?
excellent question.
Because you might talk to someone
Excellent
3 months
question.
and they haven't distinguished themselves. And so there comes a point sometimes where you almost have to kind of say, I'm going to have to put you in the friend zone because the person hasn't distinguished themselves. How much time are you supposed to give somebody? Like I kind of think 3 months is kind of
It
like
comes. I
like
think it comes to your.
huh?
But that's if you're dating with a purpose. If your purpose is to get married, then yes, then there would be a time frame. But if your purpose is just to date, to figure out what you want to do, just to meet people, then I don't feel like you can quantify that time. But I mean, if you have to go, it all goes back to making your intentions clear. You
Hmm.
know, are you looking to be? I mean, you've made it clear that you're looking to be in a monogamous relationship. You want to be married again.
Hmm.
So, absolutely, 3 months is enough time to determine. Sometimes in 3 days, I can determine how much longer I'm going to talk to you.
You know what? I don't think well, I can tell if I have a certain amount of, um, if I have chemistry with someone. But I can't determine if this person is the one necessarily for me that quickly, right? Like I have to get to know them a little bit better. And there are certain things that you want to be in place. You know what I mean? Because you got to be on point mentally, physically, and emotionally with that person. And sometimes the certain aspects don't reveal themselves as quickly. You know what I mean? Like you might not
Well,
know.
reconcile is a big one. If we don't communicate well within the first couple of days, I
Mhm.
don't need to communicate with you any further after that.
Right, got you, and that makes sense. You know. So once again, it's been a lovely evening with I ran that
Stop it, Mr. Palmer.
But I want to thank everyone that joined us tonight. Thank you, Ms. Brown, for letting us know that you can hear us. So we kind of corrected that. We had a brief pause for a couple of minutes during the show. So this is early on. We hope to get all the bugs worked out before it's all said and done. But I want to thank everybody who joined us tonight. And we will see you, like and subscribe and share with your friends. And we will see you next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Stay safe and stay blessed.
Good night.